The stars were calm that night. In the endless black of space, the giant white ship drifted slowly, shining like a soft pearl in the dark. Its name was ECS Mercy, a hospital ship of the Human Federation. The ship carried the wounded, the sick, and the lost. Inside it, soft lights glowed, and the hum of machines filled the quiet air. It was a place of healing, a place far away from the chaos of war. For now, Captain Lena Cross stood on the command deck, her eyes on the stars. She was tall, calm, and her uniform carried the silver mark of a war veteran. She had seen too much fire, too many deaths. Now, she was guarding those who could no longer fight. "Status?" she asked. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "All systems stable, Captain," said Ensign Darrell, a young officer at the navigation console. "Medical decks report full recovery mode. We are ready for jump in 2 hours." Lena nodded. "Good. Keep it quiet. No signals, no transmissions. I don't want anyone to know where we are." She looked again at the stars, but in her mind, she felt uneasy. Somewhere out there, she could feel eyes watching. On Deck 7, Dr. Mira Hahn checked her patients. Rows of wounded soldiers lay in medical pods. Machines beeped softly as they worked to heal broken bones and burned skin. Some of the soldiers talked in their sleep, whispering names, orders, or last words from the battle they escaped. Mira sighed. "Rest easy," she whispered. "You're safe now." The Mercy was supposed to be safe. It carried no visible weapons. Every external marking showed the Red Cross of the Federation Medical Corps. No sane enemy would target it. No one should. But not everyone in the galaxy believed in mercy. Far away, at the edge of a dying nebula, a fleet of alien ships moved silently. Their hulls were black, their lights dim. The Zorthan Dominion, a race of proud warriors known for their cruelty, had been watching. Commander Krex stood on his bridge, a tall, scaled creature with eyes like burning gold. His voice rumbled as he spoke. "There. That white ship. Human design." His sensors officer replied. "Confirmed, Commander. No active weapons detected. It's a hospital vessel." Krex smiled, showing sharp teeth. "A hospital ship. The humans send healers into our war zone. How noble." He turned, his long tail swaying behind him. "Prepare the guns." The officer hesitated. "Sir, by war code, hospital ships are off limits." Krex cut him off with a growl. "Do you think the humans spared our wounded when they took the Vega Belt? Mercy is a weakness. We will remind them who rules this sector." The alien ship's engines glowed, and they began to move toward the human vessel. Back aboard the Mercy, the crew continued their quiet routine. Chief Engineer Armin was repairing an air filtration unit when the lights flickered for a second. He muttered. "Probably a power fluctuation. Too much load on the med bays." He checked the systems. Everything looked fine. Still, something felt wrong. He looked out the small porthole, and for a brief moment, he thought he saw movement in the stars. A flicker of light, there and gone. On the bridge, the radar technician frowned. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal. It's faint, could be debris or a reflection." Lena walked over. "Show me." A small dot blinked on the screen, far behind them. "Any response to our IFF ping?" she asked. "No, ma'am. It's silent." Lena thought for a moment. "Could be pirates," she said. "Keep monitoring. Do not engage. And raise shield readiness to level 2. The young officer hesitated. "Level 2, Captain? On a hospital ship?" Lena gave a small smile. "Let's just say I like to stay careful." The Mercy continued to glide through space, unaware of the growing danger closing in. In the crew lounge, some of the medics were watching old Earth music videos, laughing softly. For a brief time, it almost felt normal, like home. One of them, a nurse named Lyra, said, "It's strange, isn't it? Being out here, after everything that happened on Titan." Her friend nodded. "Yeah. I just want to finish this run and go home. The laughter faded when the lights flickered again. Then, an alarm softly beeped on the bridge. "Captain," said the radar officer, his voice tense now. "Multiple contacts. 3 ships. They're closing fast." Lena's head snapped up. "Distance. 40,000 kilometers and closing. Identification. Not human, ma'am. Their drive signature matches Zorthan Dominion." The bridge went silent. Even the hum of the ship felt quieter. Lena spoke slowly. "Open medical channels. Maybe they just want to talk." But even as she said it, she didn't believe it. A moment later, the comm officer shook his head. "No response, Captain. They're locking scanners on us." Lena took a deep breath. "Raise shields to maximum. Evacuate Deck 5. Get the wounded into reinforced sections." The ship's comm lights turned red. Sirens echoed softly through the halls. Doctors and nurses hurried to secure patients. In the med bay, Dr. Mira looked up as the alarm sounded. "What's happening?" she asked. "We're not sure," came the voice from the intercom. "Possible enemy contact." Myra's hands shook, but she forced herself to keep calm. "Move the critical patients to the lower pods. Quickly." Outside, in the void, the 3 alien ships spread into attack formation. Their plasma cannons charged with bright blue light. Inside the lead ship, Commander Krex gave a cruel smile. "Fire." The first volley hit like thunder. Blue fire tore across the Mercy's hull, shaking it violently. People screamed, metal bent, and alarms screamed through every corridor. On the bridge, Lena grabbed the console as sparks flew. "Damage report. Deck 3 hit. Hull breach sealed. Shields at 62%. Return fire," she shouted instinctively, then caught herself. There were no visible weapons on this ship. Not for the galaxy to see, at least. "Hold course," she ordered instead. "Keep moving. Don't stop." Another blast struck. The Mercy spun slightly, its white hull scarred and burning. Through the chaos, Captain Lena's eyes stayed on the display, and deep in her gaze, there was no fear. Only patience. The enemy thought they had found prey. They had no idea what was hidden beneath the ship's white surface. And in that silence between explosions, as the alarms wailed and the wounded cried, the real story of the Mercy was only beginning. The space around the ECS Mercy burned with blue light as plasma bolts cut across the dark. The alien fleet moved like predators, fast and cold, their weapons striking without mercy. Inside the hospital ship, chaos spread through the decks. Smoke filled the air, lights flickered, and alarms screamed. People ran through corridors, carrying wounded soldiers and medical gear. The sound of metal groaning echoed everywhere. The ship shook again as another plasma shot hit the lower hull. Captain Lena Cross stood firm on the bridge, her eyes sharp, her voice steady. "Report," she shouted. "Shields at 43%. Ensign Darrell answered, his voice trembling. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." "Stabilize the core and reroute power to forward shields," Lena ordered. "Keep us alive." Outside, the Zorthan commander, Krex, watched the human ship burning on his tactical screen. "Pathetic," he said, leaning back in his chair. "They travel with lights on, painted white like a beacon, as if daring us to shoot them." His second-in-command, Officer Tarl, spoke carefully. "Commander, sensors confirm the vessel is unarmed. No weapon systems detected. It's exactly what the humans claim it to be, a medical ship." Krex smiled, a low growl rising in his throat. "Good. Then this will be quick. Target their engines. I want to see how long human steel can scream before it dies." Back on the Mercy, Captain Lena gripped the railing as the next impact rocked the deck. Sparks flew from the ceiling. "Emergency power to propulsion," she barked. "We need distance between us and those ships." The engines roared, but the ship was too slow, too heavy. It was built for care, not for speed. They're matching our movement, Daryl said, fear in his voice. They're toying with us. Lena said nothing. She stared at the enemy blips on the screen, her mind racing. She knew this ship was more than it appeared. But that truth wasn't for everyone. Keep shields steady, she said. And get me comms. Comms are jammed, Captain, the officer replied. They're blocking all frequencies. Lena cursed softly. Of course they are. In the med bay, Dr. Mira Hahn struggled to keep her patients alive. Oxygen lines hissed, and red emergency lights blinked over the beds. Keep them stable, she shouted to the nurses. Seal the leaks now. A young nurse ran to her. Doctor, what's happening? They said it's a hospital ship. Why are we being attacked? Mira paused for a moment, her hands covered in blood from a wounded pilot. Because mercy means nothing to monsters, she said quietly. Outside the ship, the Zorthan cannons fired again. One of the plasma bolts hit near the cargo bay, tearing open a section of the hull. Debris and bodies drifted into space before the emergency shields sealed the breach. On the alien flagship, Krex watched the destruction with pleasure. Weak creatures, he said. Always hiding behind rules and pity. Let this be a lesson. But not everyone on his ship agreed. Officer Tarl hesitated before speaking. Commander, if I may, the humans are dangerous. We've seen what they did at Vega Prime. A single human destroyer held our fleet for hours. What if? Krex slammed his fist on the console. Enough. Do not speak to me of fear. They are healers, not warriors. He pointed at the display. We will burn them, and their cries will echo across the void. On the Mercy, Chief Engineer Armin's voice came through the comm. Captain, we've lost auxiliary power to sections B and C. Shields won't hold if we take another direct hit. Lena closed her eyes for a second. Understood. Seal off those decks. Focus everything on life support and shields. Armin hesitated, then asked, Captain, do we use it? There was a pause. Lena looked around at her crew, frightened, but loyal. They didn't know. They couldn't know, not yet. She shook her head. Not yet, Chief. We hold as long as we can. Another explosion rocked the ship, throwing officers to the ground. The lights dimmed. On the screens, the alien ships circled like wolves. Captain, Daryl whispered. If we don't do something, they'll destroy us. Lena's face was calm, but her mind was racing. She knew this ship was not truly helpless. It had a secret buried deep within its core, a secret known only to her and a few others. But revealing it too early could expose humanity's plan to the entire galaxy. Timing mattered. She turned to the crew. We will not die here. Keep the wounded safe. Keep this ship alive. That's an order. Her voice carried strength, and the crew obeyed, clinging to her courage. On the alien flagship, Krex received a new report. Commander, said his officer, human ship is still moving. It's not surrendering. Good, Krex growled. Let them suffer longer. I want their captain to watch her people burn. The alien ships repositioned, charging weapons again. Inside the Mercy, the atmosphere was thick with smoke and fear. In the med bay, a nurse whispered a prayer. If anyone can hear me, please help us. Dr. Mira checked her instruments, then froze. Wait. The power's shifting. What? Asked the nurse. Where? Down below, Mira said softly. Engineering. At that same moment, in the engineering bay, Chief Armin looked at a hidden console behind a steel panel. The panel had no label, no lights, just a single small keypad with an old mechanical lock. His hand hovered over it. He remembered his orders from Captain Lena before launch. Only if there's no other choice. He hesitated, then looked up at the shaking ceiling. Captain, he said into his comm, if we wait any longer, we won't have a ship left. Lena didn't answer at first. She stared at the tactical display, watching the alien ships close in. Her mind flashed with memories, Earth cities burning, fleets falling, the promise she made that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. "Hold your position, Chief," she said at last. "Wait for my signal." "Aye, Captain," Armin said, though his hands trembled. Outside, the aliens fired again. The rail of blue plasma struck the Mercy's side, and a huge explosion lit the void. The lights flickered, then went dark for a second. The emergency backup came online, painting the bridge in a red glow. "Captain," Daryl said, his voice breaking, "we can't take another hit." Lena looked at the burning view ahead. Her jaw tightened. "Then they'll get one surprise before they finish us." The crew looked at her, confused, as she turned toward the command console and entered a code. The screen flashed, "Authorization required." She placed her hand on the scanner. The system beeped softly, waiting. She hesitated for half a heartbeat, then pressed her palm down. "Code Black Protocol," she said. "Captain Lena Cross. Confirm activation." The console accepted the code. Deep inside the ship, something began to wake. Hidden systems, long dormant, started to hum. Behind sealed walls, machinery moved. The Mercy shuddered as old power circuits came alive. On the bridge, no one understood what was happening, but they could feel it. The air itself seemed to change. And as the alien ships prepared to fire again, a calm voice echoed through the ship's main computer. "Black Protocol confirmed. Preparing weapon systems." Captain Lena looked up, her face hard as steel. "Now," she whispered. "Let's see how they like a hospital ship that fights back." The ECS Mercy floated through the void, wounded but still alive. Its white hull was scarred and blackened from enemy fire. Smoke leaked from its engines like blood from an open wound. The alien fleet still surrounded it, waiting for the final strike. Inside, the lights flickered between red and black as the backup power struggled to keep systems alive. The sound of alarms mixed with the faint cries of the wounded. Captain Lena Cross stood in the middle of the chaos, calm and silent. Her crew looked to her for answers, for hope, but she gave no hint of fear. Only her eyes moved, scanning the damage reports on the cracked display. Then, she spoke in a quiet, steady voice. "Chief Armin, status of Black Protocol?" The engineer's voice came through the comm, rough and low. "It's ready, Captain. Power transfer complete. But, once we activate it, there's no going back." Lena's lips pressed into a thin line. "Understood. Prepare for deployment, but hold fire until my command." She looked around the bridge. Her officers stared at her, confused. None of them knew what she meant. Daryl finally asked, "Captain, what's going on? What's Black Protocol?" Lena met his eyes, her voice low. "A secret, ensign. One built into the ship before you were even born." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but there was no time for questions. Outside, the alien ships began to move again. The Zorthan fleet was preparing to finish the job. On their flagship, Commander Krex leaned over the tactical display. "They're still alive," he growled. "How stubborn these humans are. End it." Officer Tarl hesitated. "Commander, should we not confirm their surrender first? We have already proved our power." Krex turned and slammed his clawed hand on the console. "I said end it," he roared. "No survivors." The alien weapons began charging, their plasma cores glowing with blue fire. Inside the Mercy, Captain Lena stood tall. "All decks, brace for impact," she ordered. "And someone tell Dr. Hahn to keep the wounded below Deck 5. It's about to get rough." The ship trembled again as another blast hit the hull. Sparks rained from the ceiling. A pipe burst, releasing a hiss of steam. Daryl shouted over the noise, "Shields are down to 20%. "That's fine," Lena said coldly. "We won't need them soon." In the engineering bay, Chief Armin and his team worked frantically. The hum of massive engines filled the air, but behind them, a deeper vibration had started. It came from beneath the deck, from a sealed chamber that had never been opened since the ship's launch. A giant warning light blinked above the door, Classified access only. Armin wiped the sweat from his brow and opened a secured console. Inside were 2 key slots, one labeled Command, the other Engineering. He inserted his key, then spoke into his comm. Captain, ready for dual confirmation. On the bridge, Lena inserted her own key into a slot near her chair. She hesitated for only a second before turning it. Black Protocol, activate. Deep inside the ship, gears moved. Heavy doors unlocked with a deep rumble that echoed through the hull. Hidden panels along the outer decks slid open, revealing long metallic structures buried beneath the surface. Thick cables began to glow blue. Power surged through conduits that hadn't been used in years. The medical ship's soft hum changed to a low, thunderous vibration. Dr. Mira Hahn, down in the med bay, looked around as the floor shook beneath her feet. "What's happening now?" she asked. A nurse replied, eyes wide with fear. "The lights are changing color." Mira frowned as the white light shifted to a deep, eerie blue. "This isn't medical power. This is something else." On the bridge, the crew watched in shock as readings began to spike across every system. "Captain, what is that energy signature?" Daryl asked. "It's too strong. It's not possible for a medical ship." Lena's eyes stayed on the main display. "It's not just a medical ship, Ensign. The ship was built to heal. And to protect. What you're seeing is Project Mercy's fist." The words hung in the air like thunder. No one spoke. Then, outside the ship, the transformation became visible. Along the sides of the Mercy, metal panels opened to reveal massive coils and rail assemblies. They began to spin and charge, glowing brighter each second. The ship that once looked harmless now looked alive, dangerous. On the Zorthan flagship, alarms blared. "Commander!" shouted Officer Tarl. "The human ship, its energy readings are spiking. We're detecting weapon systems, massive weapon systems." Krex's eyes widened. "Weapon systems? That's impossible. It's a hospital ship." "Not anymore," Tarl said quietly. Krex roared in rage. "Fire everything we have. Destroy it before it finishes charging." Plasma bolts flew across the void, striking the Mercy again and again. But this time, the ship didn't break. Its new armor plating absorbed the heat, glowing with energy. On the bridge, Lena felt the ship's vibration through her boots. "Rail system charging," Armin reported. 30%, 50, 75, steady, Lena said. "Target the lead ship." Daryl's voice shook. "Captain, are we really going to do it?" Lena said, her tone sharp. "They attacked a ship of Mercy. Let them learn what that means." The charging reached full power. The air hummed with energy. A bright blue light filled the front view of the ship as the main railgun came online. It stretched the entire length of the hull, hidden behind false walls and medical decks. Its coils glowed like lightning. Lena raised her hand. "Fire one shot." The engineer pressed the final key. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the railgun fired. The blast was pure energy, a beam of light that tore through the darkness of space like a god's strike. It hit the lead alien ship dead center. For 1 second, the Zorthan flagship glowed from within, and then it vanished, obliterated into dust and flame. On the bridge of the Mercy, no one spoke. The shockwave rippled through space, shaking even the remaining alien ships. Officer Tarl stared at the empty space where their command ship had been. "Commander." There was only static. Panic filled the alien fleet. "Fall back," shouted one of their captains. "It's a trap. The humans tricked us." The Zorthan formation broke apart as ships turned to flee. On the Mercy, Captain Lena watched the retreating signals, her face unreadable. "That's what happens," she said softly, "when you mistake mercy for weakness." Chief Armin's voice came through the comm, weapon coil cooling. "Systems stable. We're still standing, Captain." "Good," she said. "We're not done yet." In the med bay, Dr. Mira looked out the small viewport, her eyes wide as she saw burning wreckage drifting by. "That wasn't a hospital ship's doing," she whispered. "That was something else." A nurse looked at her. "Then what are we, doctor?" Mira didn't answer. She just watched the stars, glowing with fire. Back on the bridge, Lena turned to her crew. "Now you all know," she said quietly. "This ship was built to carry the wounded, but also to defend them. It's a weapon disguised as mercy. The perfect trap." The crew remained silent, still processing what they had seen. Lena turned back to the window. "Send a message to all decks," she said. "Tell them we're still alive. And tell them this war isn't over." Outside, the Mercy drifted forward through the smoke and debris. The calm light of its engines burned against the darkness. The ship that once brought healing now carried vengeance. The darkness of space glowed with the fading fire of the destroyed Zorthan flagship. Debris floated silently, drifting like ashes in the cold void. The ECS Mercy stood in the center of it all, wounded but powerful, surrounded by the remains of the ships that thought it was helpless. Inside, the crew stared at the screens in stunned silence. The railgun blast had left a trail of light that burned into their memories. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Captain Lena Cross broke the silence. "Status report." Her voice was calm, steady as ever, though her heart was pounding. Ensign Darrell looked at his console, still shaking. "Weapon system stable. Railgun coils cooling. Power output at 60% and dropping." "Any more hostiles?" Lena asked. "Two Zorthan cruisers still active," said the sensor officer. "They're regrouping, but they're keeping distance. They don't know what just hit them." Lena nodded slowly. "They will soon." She looked toward the stars where the enemy ships were trying to hide behind debris. "They thought this ship was unarmed. Let's show them they were wrong." Down in engineering, Chief Armin was sweating despite the freezing air. The entire bay vibrated as cooling fans roared around the massive power core. Blue light flickered across the walls, casting shadows over his tired crew. "How's the coil temperature?" he shouted over the noise. "Still climbing, Chief," a technician yelled back. "We can't fire again for another 90 seconds or the rail assembly will melt." Armin slammed his hand against the console. "Then get me 75 seconds. We're not dying out here." He looked up at the ceiling as if speaking to the ship itself. "Come on, old girl. Hold together." On the bridge, Lena watched as the remaining enemy ships began to circle, cautious but angry. They had seen their leader's ship vanish in an instant, and now rage mixed with fear. On the Zorthan cruiser Vecthar, Captain Raz snarled, his claws scraping against the metal armrest. "One shot destroyed a battleship. That's no hospital ship. That's a trap." His weapons officer nodded nervously. "Shall we retreat, Captain?" Raz growled. "No. We are Zorthan. We do not run from prey. Prepare the plasma torpedoes. We will burn them until nothing remains." The ship's engines roared as it charged forward, joined by the second cruiser. Both opened fire, filling the void with streaks of blue and orange light. On the Mercy, alarms screamed again as explosions shook the hull. "Shields at 15%. Darrell shouted. "We can't take much more." "Keep us steady," Lena ordered. "Hold this line. We're not done yet." The ship shuddered again as a torpedo struck near the rear engines. Panels flew off, and fire burst through a corridor before the safety systems sealed it. Dr. Mira Han clutched a railing as the med bay shook. "We can't keep taking these hits," a nurse cried. Mira grabbed her by the arm. "Do your job. If we stop now, we lose everyone." Her words steadied the nurse, and they both ran to secure the wounded. On the bridge, Lena turned to her engineer. "Armin, status. 50 seconds until full charge." "We don't have 50, she barked. "Reroute power from life support if you have to." Armin didn't hesitate. "Done. But you'll have 15 minutes of air if we don't win." Lena gave a faint, grim smile. Then let's make these 15 minutes count. Outside, the alien ships closed in. One of them launched a spread of plasma torpedoes that streaked toward the Mercy. "Incoming!" shouted Daryl. Lena didn't flinch. All thrusters, evasive pattern delta. The ship lurched sideways, slow but deliberate. 2 torpedoes missed, but one slammed into the starboard hull, tearing a massive gash. The lights dimmed, then flickered back on. "Engineering, report." "Still operational," Armin replied. 30 seconds. Lena took a deep breath. "Target the closest cruiser. Focus all sensors on its energy core." "Locked," said the sensor officer. "Target in range." The enemy ships continued their assault, plasma bolts cutting through space like glowing knives. Each impact made the ship tremble, but the Mercy refused to die. The hum from deep within the ship grew louder. Blue light began to shine through the cracks of the floor and ceiling panels. The railgun was waking again. 15 seconds, Armin called. "Pressure stable. Charging 90%. The deck vibrated. Crew members braced themselves, gripping railings and consoles. Even the wounded on the med decks could feel it, a deep, rumbling heartbeat that seemed to belong to the ship itself. 5 seconds. Armin shouted. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Aim center mass. Fire on my mark." The sensor officer watched the crosshairs lock onto the enemy cruiser. Its plasma cannons glowed, ready to fire another volley. "They're charging weapons," he yelled. "Mark," Lena whispered. Armin slammed his palm on the control. The Mercy roared. The railgun released its second shot, brighter and faster than before. The beam of pure energy streaked across space, cutting through the cruiser's shields as if they didn't exist. A blinding flash filled the void. When it faded, the alien ship was gone, only fragments spinning in silence. The second cruiser tried to veer away, but the shockwave slammed into it, sending it tumbling off course. The crew of the Mercy cheered, some shouting, some crying. Even Dr. Mira and her nurses stopped for a brief moment, feeling the ship tremble with victory. "Direct hit," Daryl shouted. "Enemy destroyed." Lena nodded slowly. "Good work. Keep sensors on the second cruiser. If it runs, let it." On the enemy ship, Captain Raz screamed at his crew. "Stabilize us. Return fire. Do something." But their systems were failing. Fires spread across their bridge. "Captain, weapons are offline." "Then ram them," Raz bellowed. "If we die, they die with us." The damaged cruiser turned, engines blazing, heading straight for the Mercy. "Captain," Daryl warned, "the last ship's on a collision course." Lena clenched her jaw. "How long to fire again, Armin?" "Coil temperature's too high. We'll blow ourselves up if we shoot now." "Then vent all coolant," Lena said sharply. "Every last drop." Armin hesitated, then obeyed. Valves opened deep within the ship, releasing vapor that filled the corridors. The ship groaned under the strain as energy surged through it once again. "Charging 80%. Armin shouted. "That's enough," Lena said. "Fire." The railgun screamed a third time. The beam hit the charging cruiser before it could reach them. It exploded in a cloud of flame and metal. Pieces of the alien ship drifted past the Mercy, glowing orange before fading into black. Silence returned. No more enemy signals. No more incoming fire. Only the sound of the ship's damaged systems humming. On the bridge, Lena exhaled slowly. "Status?" she asked. "Enemy fleet destroyed," Daryl said softly. "All targets eliminated." The crew sat back in their chairs, exhausted but alive. Down in engineering, Armin leaned against a wall, his face covered in sweat and grime. "Coils offline. Core stable. We did it, Captain." In the med bay, Mira looked around at her patients. Some were awake now, smiling faintly. She whispered to herself, "We're still here. Captain Lena stood on the bridge, staring at the wreckage through the viewing glass. "They came thinking they could break us," she said quietly. "But we're human. We bend. We bleed. We don't break." The camera would have lingered on her face, calm, proud, and tired, as the railgun's last sparks faded from the hull. The wreckage of the Zorthan fleet drifted silently through the blackness of space. Pieces of metal spun slowly, reflecting the faint glow of distant stars. The ECS Mercy moved carefully between the debris, its engines barely alive, its hull scarred and burning in several places. Inside, the crew worked like ghosts, exhausted yet alive, their minds still trying to believe what they had done. The hospital ship had destroyed a fleet. It was supposed to save lives, not take them. And yet, it had survived. On the bridge, Captain Lena Cross sat in her chair, her eyes locked on the tactical display. The screen showed only static where the enemy once was. Around her, her crew worked in silence. Every beep from a console made them jump, afraid another signal might appear. Finally, Lena broke the silence. "Report." Daryl, his face pale and tired, looked up from his station. "All enemy ships destroyed, Captain. No new contacts detected. But we've got massive hull damage and we're losing oxygen on decks 6 through 8. Armin's voice came through the comms, rough and tired. "Main reactor's stable, but the coolant tanks are empty. We can't fire the railgun again, not without melting half the ship." Lena nodded slowly. "Understood. Prioritize life support and medical bays." She looked out the viewing glass. "We'll repair what we can." Dr. Mira Hahn entered the bridge, her uniform torn and blood-stained. "You've got more wounded than beds, Captain. I've converted the cargo hold into a triage area, but we're running low on supplies." Lena turned to her. "We'll get what you need, Doctor. Right now, we just need to stay alive." Mira frowned, glancing at the stars. "You think they're gone?" Lena didn't answer right away. "I think they'll send more," she said quietly. "They won't forget this." Down in engineering, Armin and his team worked in near darkness. Sparks flew as they welded damaged panels. The air smelled like burnt metal and coolant. "She held up better than I thought," said one of the younger engineers. Armin grunted. "She's a fighter, same as her crew. But we're running on luck now." He looked up as the ship creaked again. "Let's hope that luck doesn't run out." Outside, the silence of space was deceptive. Far beyond the wreckage, hidden behind a shattered moon, a small Zorthan recon craft hovered. Its pilot recorded everything, the wrecks, the mercy, and the destruction left behind. The alien's eyes gleamed as it sent a transmission back to its command. "The humans have a weapon hidden on a hospital ship," it hissed. "We need reinforcements." Then it vanished into the void. Back on the Mercy, the crew had no idea they were being watched. In the med bay, Mira moved between stretchers, checking vital signs, whispering calm words to the injured. "You did well," she told a young soldier with burns across his arms. "You saved lives today." The man gave a weak smile. "I thought we were all going to die." Mira looked up at the ceiling. "We all did. But somehow, we didn't." On the bridge, Lena finally stood. Her legs ached, but her mind was clear. "Helm, set course for Outpost Theta. Slow speed. We'll need a dock and a miracle to get this ship home." Daryl nodded. "Yes, Captain. But our communications array is damaged. We can't send a signal." "Then we go silent," Lena said. "If the Zorthans are still out there, I'd rather they think we're dead." The Mercy began to drift forward, engines flickering weakly as it left the battlefield behind. The stars stretched out ahead like a promise of safety that might never come. Hours passed. The crew repaired what they could. Some slept where they stood, others refused to rest. Every sound felt like a threat, every flicker of light a possible enemy. Lena barely closed her eyes. She kept replaying the battle in her mind, the moment the railgun fired, the explosion, the shock. She had made the choice to kill, to reveal the ship's secret. And though it had saved them, it weighed heavily on her. "Captain," Darrell said softly, breaking her thoughts. "You should rest. We'll keep watch." She shook her head. "Not yet. Wake me if anything changes." She turned her gaze back to the stars. "They'll be back. I can feel it." In the distant dark, something stirred. The Zorthan command fleet had received the distress call. Admiral Krex, the one who had ordered the original attack, stared at the report with disbelief. "One human ship destroyed an entire strike group," he growled. His aide nodded. "Yes, Admiral. The humans have some kind of hidden weapon. It was disguised as a hospital ship." Krex slammed his clawed hand against the table. "A deception. Typical humans." He stood tall, his scaled armor glinting. "Prepare the main fleet. We will make them regret this insult." He looked out at the stars, his eyes glowing faintly red. "Find that ship. Bring me its captain alive." Back aboard the Mercy, no one knew death was already coming for them again. Armin finally managed to restore partial gravity and stabilize the power grid. "We've got a working reactor and maybe 30% thrust," he reported. "But we're still bleeding air. We won't make it far like this." Lena replied, "Do what you can. We'll make every kilometer count." Mira joined her again on the bridge. "Half my patients are stable. The others need real medical equipment soon." Lena nodded grimly. "We'll get them to Outpost Theta. I promise." Mira gave a tired smile. "You always keep your promises, Captain." Outside, the stars seemed peaceful again. But the calm was only an illusion. Behind them, sensors flickered briefly, just for a second, before going dark again. No one noticed. The recon craft had returned, this time not alone. Dozens of small blips appeared in the far distance, moving fast, hunting silently. The tide was turning again, though the humans didn't know it yet. As the Mercy drifted toward what they thought was safety, the Zorthans were gathering, ready for vengeance. Captain Lena stood on the bridge, unaware of the shadow growing behind her ship. She looked at the stars and whispered, "Let them come." Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet determination. The ship had survived once. It would do so again. But deep down, even she wondered how many more battles they could endure before the Mercy finally broke. The storm was not over. It was only beginning. The stars shimmered faintly as the ECS Mercy drifted through the cold darkness. The ship's engines whispered softly, keeping a fragile rhythm like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Inside, the crew was weary but steady. The bridge lights were dimmed to conserve power, and everyone spoke in low voices. Captain Lena Cross sat in her chair, staring at the navigation display. The Outpost Theta beacon still wasn't showing. "How much longer until we reach signal range?" she asked quietly. Darrell checked his console. "At current speed, maybe 3 more hours, Captain. Assuming nothing else breaks." Lena nodded. "Something always breaks," she muttered, almost to herself. Dr. Mira Han entered the bridge again, a faint smile masking her exhaustion. "The wounded are stable for now, Captain. But our supplies are running out. We'll need real medicine soon." Lena gave a small nod. "Hold them together, Doctor. We'll get to Theta." Mira sighed, her eyes drifting to the cracked viewing glass. "If Theta still stands," she said softly. Outside, space seemed silent, but it wasn't empty. Far behind the Mercy, the darkness shifted. Shadows moved where none should exist. The Zorthan Shadow Fleet had arrived. 10 warships, sleek and deadly, slipped from behind the wreckage of a shattered moon. Their hulls absorbed light, rendering them almost invisible. At the front of the formation, the flagship Vorak led the hunt. On its bridge, Admiral Krex stood tall, his scaled armor gleaming under the dim red lights. "There it is," he growled, his voice a deep rumble. "The human ship that humiliated us." His aide bowed. "Yes, Admiral. Orders. Krex's eyes narrowed. We cripple it. No escape. No survivors. I want their captain alive. The fleet spread out silently, their weapons charging without a sound. They moved like predators through the void. Back aboard the Mercy, Armin was in engineering, crouched beside a broken coolant pipe. Steam hissed around him as he tightened a bolt with trembling hands. We can barely keep the engines from overheating, he muttered. If anything hits us now, we're done. A young engineer nearby looked nervous. Do you think they'll come back, Chief? Armin didn't look up. They always come back. At that very moment, the radar console on the bridge flickered. A faint blip appeared on the edge of the screen. Then, another. And another. Darrell frowned. Captain. I think we've got movement. Lena leaned forward. Show me. The blips grew clearer, moving fast. Her stomach tightened. How many? At least 8. No 10, Darrell said, his voice shaking. They're closing in, vectoring straight for us. Lena stood. Red alert. All stations. The alarm echoed through the ship, a deep, haunting tone that filled every corridor. In the med bay, Mira looked up as the red lights flashed overhead. Not again, she whispered. Everyone, brace yourselves. On the bridge, Lena gave quick orders. Armin, divert all remaining power to shields and engines. Forget the railgun. We won't get a chance to charge it. Copy that, Armin replied. Power rerouting now. The Mercy's hull glowed faintly as the shield generators hummed to life. The crew held their breath as the enemy fleet came into range. Then, space erupted in fire. The first wave of plasma bolts streaked toward the Mercy, painting the blackness with lines of blue and red. The ship shook violently as the shields flared. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Darrell gripped his console. Shields down to 60%. Evasive maneuvers. Lena barked. Delta pattern. The ship lurched, twisting through space. It wasn't fast enough. A second volley hit the rear section, tearing through the outer hull. We've lost stabilizers. Armin shouted over the comms. Engines fluctuating. Keep us moving. Lena snapped. We can't stop or they'll surround us. The Zorthan ships circled like wolves. Admiral Krex watched from his bridge, a cruel smile forming. They're running. Good. Let them. We'll enjoy the hunt. He raised a clawed hand. Launch the shadow drones. From the underbelly of each Zorthan ship, small, insect-like drones detached, blacker than space itself. They swarmed forward silently, their engines invisible, their weapons ready. On the Mercy, sensors went wild. Captain, new contacts. Dozens of them. Darrell cried. They're too small to target. They're coming in fast. A moment later, the ship rocked as the first drones hit. Tiny explosions rippled along the hull, tearing through weakened plating. Hull breach on Deck 7. Armin yelled. Emergency bulkheads sealed. Myra's med bay shook. Medical equipment toppled over, and patients screamed. Hold the line, she shouted to her team. Keep the wounded safe. Back on the bridge, Lena gritted her teeth. They're trying to disable us before boarding. She turned to Darrell. Prepare countermeasures. Launch everything we have. We've only got a few decoy flares left, he said. Use them, she ordered. Outside, the flares burst into light, briefly blinding the drones and confusing their sensors. A few crashed into each other, exploding into fragments. That bought us seconds, Lena said. Make them count. Captain. Armin's voice came through the intercom. I've got an idea. If we reroute power from the medical deck to the external coils, I can trigger an EMP pulse strong enough to fry those drones. Lena hesitated. That'll kill life support for half the ship. Armin replied. Better that than all of us dying when they cut through the hull. Lena took a deep breath. Do it. In engineering, Armin slammed his hand on the control panel. "Hold on, everyone," he yelled. Sparks flew as the ship's lights dimmed. Then a deep, throbbing pulse shook the ship. A wave of electromagnetic energy surged outward, rippling through space. The drones froze mid-flight, their lights flickering out. Then, one by one, they went dark. The crew cheered weakly, but it didn't last long. "Admiral Krex," a Zorthan officer shouted. "The human ship has disabled our drones." Krex snarled. "Then we finish this ourselves. Bring us in close." The massive warships began to close the gap. On the Mercy, the crew watched as the enemy filled the viewing glass, huge dark shapes blotting out the stars. "They're right on top of us," Daryl said quietly. "We can't outrun them." Lena's expression hardened. "No. But maybe we can outthink them." She looked at the damage report flashing on her screen. "Armin, can you overload the coolant tanks?" "I can, but why?" "Because we're going to make this ship explode, just not yet." Armin froze. "Captain, that's suicide." "Only if we stay aboard," Lena said. "We'll fake a reactor overload, make them think the ship's going critical. When they pull back, we hide in the debris." Daryl looked up. "That might actually work." Lena gave a faint smile. "Then let's make it happen." Armin started rerouting power, his fingers moving fast. Coolant pressure rising. Reactor readings will spike in 30 seconds. On the enemy flagship, alarms blared. "Admiral, their core is overloading. Radiation levels spiking." Krex frowned. "What are they doing? Are they trying to take us with them?" "It looks that way." "Pull back," Krex shouted. "All ships, retreat to safe distance." As the Zorthan ships withdrew, the Mercy vented plasma and gas, simulating an explosion. For a moment, the entire area was engulfed in white light. When it cleared, the ship was gone, hidden inside a cloud of debris and ionized dust. The Zorthans scanned the field. Stared at the scanners. The ECS Mercy floated silently among the wreckage, hidden in the thick cloud of ionized dust. The lights inside the ship were dim, and every system except life support had been powered down. The crew spoke in whispers, afraid that even their voices might somehow give away their position. For the first time in hours, there was no sound of weapons, no alarms, no shaking hull, only the deep, steady hum of the damaged reactor keeping them alive. Captain Lena Cross stood near the viewing glass, her eyes scanning the stars outside. "Status?" she asked softly. Daryl leaned closer to his dimly lit console. "No new contacts on radar. The Zorthans pulled back, at least for now." Armin's tired voice came over the comms. "Coolant pressure stable, but we're running on fumes, Captain. If we don't restart the reactor soon, we'll freeze in an hour." Lena nodded slowly. "Understood. Keep it quiet as long as you can." Dr. Mira Han entered the bridge, wiping her hands on her stained uniform. "Most of the wounded are alive," she said, her tone heavy. "Barely. But the oxygen filters are clogging, and the med bay needs power." "Not yet," Lena replied. "If we light up now, they'll find us." Mira crossed her arms. "And if we don't, they'll suffocate before morning." For a moment, their eyes met, two leaders burdened by impossible choices. "We'll find a way," Lena said finally. "We always do." Outside, the debris field drifted slowly, creating ghostly shadows across the ship's hull. The wrecks of destroyed Zorthan ships floated nearby, torn apart by the Mercy's railgun hours before. Their silent remains were the perfect hiding place, but also a dangerous one. Daryl glanced at his scanner again. "Captain, I'm picking up faint energy spikes about 2,000 kilometers out. Could be random radiation, but it's repeating." Lena frowned. "Pattern. Every 20 seconds, same intensity." "That's not random," she said quietly. "It's a scan pulse." Myra's eyes widened. "They're searching for us." Lena nodded grimly. "The Shadow Fleet hasn't given up." They're sweeping the area. If we move, we're dead. The bridge fell silent. Everyone could feel the tension rising, like the air before a storm. Armin's voice broke through the calm again. Captain, the reactor's getting cold. If we wait too long, it won't restart. Lena thought for a moment. All right. Restart auxiliary systems only. Just enough heat to keep the ship alive. Understood, Armin replied. The faint hum of energy flowed through the decks again, and the lights flickered softly. But the signal didn't go unnoticed. Far away, aboard the Zorthan flagship Vorik, an officer shouted, "Admiral! I've detected a faint power surge near the debris field." Admiral Krex turned sharply. Coordinates. 3 degrees starboard, Sector 9. Krex's grin spread wide. There you are, little humans. He slammed his clawed fist on the console. Send 2 cruisers and the boarding ships. I want that vessel intact. Back in the debris field, Darrell looked up suddenly. Captain, movement. 2 ships inbound, fast. Lena's heart tightened. So much for hiding, she muttered. Armin, can we move? Barely, he answered. Engines will overheat in 5 minutes. Then 5 minutes is all we need. She turned to Darrell. Plot a course through the wreckage. Tight spaces, they'll have to slow down to follow. Aye, Captain. The Mercy's engines rumbled to life. Slowly, the ship began to drift forward, sliding between the twisted remains of destroyed ships. Broken hulls and shattered armor floated close enough to scrape against their sides. Mira held onto the railing, her knuckles white. If we hit anything, it's over, she whispered. Outside, the Zorthan ships appeared from the dark, their sleek forms cutting through the debris. Target acquired, one of the alien officers said. They're running again. Krex's voice echoed through their comms. Then chase them. Tear their wings off if you have to. Plasma bolts flew through the wreckage, lighting up the dark with bursts of energy. Each blast made the Mercy shake. Return fire? Darrell asked. Negative, Lena said firmly. Stay dark. Make them think we're desperate. The ship weaved between debris, dodging incoming fire. One blast hit close, sending fragments of metal flying across the hull. Sparks showered the bridge. Starboard plating breached. Armin shouted. We're losing air. Seal it. Lena ordered. Keep moving. The Mercy dove between 2 giant wrecks, their broken metal frames forming a narrow corridor. They can't follow us in there, Darrell said. Lena smirked slightly. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Behind them, the Zorthan ships slowed, scanning the passage. It's too narrow, one of the alien captains said. We could get trapped. Krex's voice growled through their comms. Cowards. Follow them in. End this. The alien cruisers obeyed, their engines glowing as they entered the corridor. Inside the Mercy, Armin suddenly understood the captain's plan. You're going to trap them, he said over the comms. You noticed. Lena replied. Tell me we still have power in the rear thrusters. Minimal, but yes. Good. On my signal, vent the remaining plasma fuel. That'll light the whole corridor, Armin warned. Exactly, Lena said. The Mercy drifted deeper into the wreckage, then slowed to a stop. Now, Lena commanded. Armin hit the release. From the back of the ship, clouds of glowing blue plasma spilled into the corridor, floating like mist. Darrell, reverse thrust. Slowly. The ship backed away, leaving the corridor filled with fuel. Behind them, the Zorthan cruisers approached fast. They're slowing down, Darrell said. They're scanning the area. Good, Lena said. Now, Armin, ignite it. Ignite. Yes, ignite it. Armin triggered the spark from the ship's rear thrusters. The plasma cloud ignited instantly, a blinding blue firestorm racing down the corridor. The 2 Zorthan ships had no time to react. The explosion tore through them, consuming their hulls in seconds. The blast wave hit the Mercy, rocking it violently but not destroying it. When the light faded, only drifting metal remained. The crew stared at the screens in disbelief. Daryl broke the silence. "Both enemy ships destroyed, Captain." Mira exhaled shakily. "That was insane." Lena smiled faintly. "Insane works." Armin's laughter came through the comms. "Remind me never to doubt you again, Captain." But the victory didn't last. Daryl looked up from his console. "Captain, more signals. A lot more. The main fleet's moving toward us." Lena's smile faded. "So, the Admiral's coming himself." Mira clenched her jaw. "We can't take another fight like that." "No," Lena agreed. "But maybe we don't have to." She looked out at the wreckage, her mind racing. "We've got debris, metal, and a lot of explosives left in those wrecks. Armin, can we rig them?" "You mean, make a trap?" he asked. "Exactly. If they want to come into this graveyard, we'll make sure it buries them too." Armin grinned. "I'll start working." Lena turned back to her crew. "This ship may be wounded, but we still have fight left. Let's show them what a hospital ship can do." Outside, the Mercy began to move again, slowly, silently, preparing the biggest trap of all. In the distance, the Shadow Fleet advanced, unaware that death itself waited in the void ahead. The ECS Mercy moved quietly through the shattered graveyard of ships, its engines barely alive. Every light inside was dimmed, every sound dampened. The crew worked in near silence, exhausted yet focused. The corridors smelled of metal, smoke, and sweat. Captain Lena Cross stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the star map glowing faintly on the cracked screen. Around her, the crew waited for her command. "We don't have time," Lena said finally. "They'll be here soon." Daryl nodded, his voice trembling slightly. "The fleet is less than 20 minutes away. At least 15 warships, maybe more." Armin's voice came through the comms. "Charges are placed, Captain. We've turned the debris field into one big minefield. But if one of those wrecks goes off too early, it'll take us with it." Lena gave a faint smile. "Then let's make sure it doesn't." Dr. Mira Hahn entered the bridge, her face pale from exhaustion. "The wounded are stable for now," she said softly. "But if we get hit again, we can't treat anyone else. The med bay is at its limit." Lena looked at her and nodded. "Understood. Tell your people to stay low and brace for impact." Mira hesitated, then said, "You don't expect to survive this, do you?" Lena turned toward the viewing glass, her eyes reflecting the faint light of distant stars. "I expect to make them regret ever coming after us." Outside, the wreckage field drifted silently, hiding the traps Armin and his team had placed. Dead ships floated like ghosts, their broken hulls filled with explosives and power cores wired to detonate remotely. The Mercy sat at the center, the bait in a deadly trap. The silence broke as Daryl's radar began to beep. "Contacts incoming," he said. "Multiple ships, fast." Lena straightened. "How many?" "At least 12, he said. "The Admiral's flagship is among them." Lena exhaled slowly. "Showtime." In the far distance, the dark shapes of the Zorthan fleet appeared, their engines burning red. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship Vorik, his eyes gleaming. "There it is," he growled. "The human ghost ship. Destroy it." "Admiral," his officer said nervously, "the wreckage field is dense. We could hit debris." Krex snarled. "You think I fear debris? Advance and fire all weapons." The fleet charged forward. Plasma blasts and missiles cut through the dark, slamming into floating metal and broken hulls. The explosions lit up space like a storm of fire. On the Mercy, the crew watched in silence. "They're coming in too fast," Daryl whispered. "Wait," Lena said. "Not yet." The enemy ships pushed deeper into the debris field, unaware that every piece of wreckage around them was wired to kill. Krex's voice echoed through his bridge. Fire again. Leave nothing standing. Lena's eyes narrowed. Now. Armin hit the control. The first explosion tore through the darkness. Then, another. And another. The entire field erupted in light as the trapped wrecks exploded one after another, sending shockwaves across space. The Zorthan ships were caught in the blast, their shields overwhelmed by the chain reaction. Flames consumed their hulls as shrapnel ripped through their armor. Direct hits. Daryl shouted. Multiple enemy ships destroyed. Keep detonating. Lena ordered. One by one, Armin triggered the charges. The debris field became a storm of fire and death. Entire cruisers broke apart, spinning into pieces. The shockwaves slammed against the Mercy, shaking the ship violently. Hull breach on Deck 9. Armin yelled. Seal it. Lena said. We're not done yet. Mira braced herself in the med bay as the lights flickered. Hold on, she shouted to her team. Don't stop working. Back on the bridge, the explosions began to fade. Smoke and fire drifted through space, but the radar still showed signals. 5 ships remaining, Daryl said. The flagship survived. Lena clenched her jaw. Of course it did. On the Vorik, Admiral Krex stood among the chaos, his bridge filled with smoke and sparks. Cowardly trick, he growled. They think they can hide behind debris? Prepare to ram them. His ship surged forward, its massive engines flaring bright. Captain, Daryl said, the flagship is charging straight at us. Lena stared at the approaching vessel. It was huge, its weapons glowing, its intent clear. Armin, she said calmly, how much power do we have left? Barely enough to move, he replied. Then give it all to the railgun, Lena ordered. There was silence on the line. Captain, Armin said slowly, if we fire, the railgun coils will melt. We'll lose the ship. We already lost it, Lena said softly. We just haven't accepted it yet. Mira entered the bridge again, her eyes wide. Lena, what are you doing? Ending this, Lena said. She turned to Daryl. Lock on to the flagship's reactor core. Daryl's fingers moved fast across the console. Target locked. Charge the railgun, Lena said. Full power. The ship began to shake as the coils charged, blue light glowing through the decks. Sparks flew from the walls, and alarms screamed. Coils at maximum. Armin shouted. The enemy flagship loomed closer, its weapons ready. Krex's laughter echoed through the comms. You can't stop us, human. Your ship is broken. Your kind is weak. Lena smiled faintly. We'll see about that. She raised her hand. Fire. The Mercy roared. The railgun unleashed its final shot, brighter and louder than any before. The beam of energy cut through space and slammed into the Zorthan flagship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship exploded. The light was blinding, the sound like thunder rolling through the void. The explosion consumed everything, the flagship, the debris, and half of the remaining fleet. On the Mercy, the blast wave hit like a hammer. The ship spun violently, alarms blaring. Shields gone. Daryl shouted. We're losing power. Armin's voice broke through the static. Reactor critical. We have to shut it down. Do it. Lena shouted. The lights flickered, then went dark. The Mercy drifted silently once more, smoke rising from its hull. The surviving Zorthan ships scattered, their formations broken, their leader gone. The battle was over. The bridge was quiet except for the crackle of damaged circuits. Daryl looked at Lena, his voice hoarse. They're retreating. Mira sat down, trembling. We're alive. Lena exhaled slowly. For now. Armin came over the comms, his voice weak. Railguns gone. Reactors stable again. We're floating, Captain. Lena looked out the cracked viewport at the burning remains of the enemy fleet. They came to kill us, she said softly. They thought we were weak. But they were wrong. Mira smiled faintly through her exhaustion. You saved us, Captain. Lena shook her head. No. The ship saved us. The Mercy did what it was built to do. It protected life. The camera would have lingered on the battered ship, drifting through the glowing remains of the battle. Its hull was broken, its name barely visible under the burns and cracks. But it was still there. Still alive. Far away, in the cold silence of space, the ECS Mercy continued to drift, a symbol of human defiance and survival. The war was not over. The galaxy would soon hear what happened here. The story of the hospital ship that fought back, the ship that refused to die. And as long as it floated among the stars, hope floated with it. The Mercy lived on.